What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Central bank digital currencies. What are they? What makes them similar and what makes them different to the dollar in your wallet, the dollar in your purse, or the change rolling around in your pocket? We're going to read this article from digitalasset.com. There are portions of it that I will paraphrase. Some of it was poorly written, hard to understand with the words, and kind of like watching paint dry. So we're going to discuss it as we go. So here we go. What is a central bank digital currency, and why should people prefer CBDCs over bank accounts? Recently, central bank digital currency has emerged as a hot topic in the financial world. Several central banks are running analysis and studies investigating the technical and economic feasibility of the introduction of digital money and the impact it might have on monetary policy, liquidity, etc. Yes, there is not one section of the financial world that isn't going to be touched by cryptocurrencies and CBDCs, in my opinion, and is going to change the face of the financial world forever. What is CBDC? CBDC is a digital form of currency that is backed by a central bank, and through that has legal tender status. This definition means it is recognized by law as a means to settle debts or meet financial obligations such as tax payments. Think the dollar bill that you've got or the $20 bill that you've got or whatever, that phrase on there, this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Same thing. No different from cash in that aspect. How does CBDC differ from physical cash? Well, that word right there, physical cash. CBDC is indeed reasonably similar to the bills in your wallet, but storing and transacting with physical currency is very inefficient and tedious. A digital representation of that value would be much more convenient and efficient, and it would cost less. It costs money to make money. Not make money, but make money. To print money, to mint money, to actually physically make physical cash costs money. And believe it or not, it costs quite a bit of money. How does CBDC differ from the money in your bank account? Well, this is one of those that I'm going to paraphrase because this was like watching paint dry here. Basically, when you take your legal tender to a bank, as long as it is in your hands, in your pocket, it is your legal tender. Excuse me. The minute that you get your money and put it in the bank, or if you have direct deposit into your bank, that is not your legal tender going into the bank. That is the bank's legal tender. The bank gives you an IOU, a promise that says, hey, anytime you want to access and get some liquidity, anytime you want to get legal tender, we'll give you some of our legal tender. And once we give you our legal tender, then it becomes your legal tender. When the bank holds the money, it is the bank's money. It is not your money. The best you have is an IOU. If the bank fails and the bank goes belly up, then there's nobody there to give you your money because it's not your money. You're giving it to the bank. The bank gives you an IOU that says, yeah, we recognize that we're holding money that is technically yours, but is physically ours. What are the benefits of CBDC? CBDC has a couple of interesting, favorable properties. The two most relevant ones are probably the following. Since CBDC would have legal tender status and would not be at your bank's liability, you would not have to rely on the bank's solvency. Your money would be safe no matter how well the bank does. Yes, because you're not having an IOU. You would have the money digitally stored, and it would be your legal tender that you can access at any time, regardless of where you are or if there's a bank there. The central bank would have a much more direct way to exert its monetary policy, in that it would have a more potent tool to fulfill one of its main tasks, ensuring financial stability. Now, there's a downside to that as well, and that is this. The central bank would have would have a much more direct way to exert its monetary policy. That's it. That's both good and bad. The central bank would have a much more direct way to exert its monetary policy. That's both good and bad, both good policy and bad policy. So that's both a good and a bad. However, we can ensure that it's probably more than likely going to be mostly good because the central bank wants everybody to be successful because they want to be successful, and they're only successful if everybody else is successful. What would be the future role of banks? Well, they would streamline. There would be less loans. In fact, the reason that these banks, and it explains it later on in this article, the reason that these banks are studying and doing an analysis on CBDCs is because they want to solve the problem of loans. Banks do not want to get cut out of doing loans, and CBDCs have a high likelihood of cutting banks out of the loan business. And for the banks, not for you and I, but for the banks, that's an issue. Since owning CBDC would effectively mean that you have a relationship with or an account at the central bank, one would wonder what would all those other mom and pop banks and other big, huge brick and mortar banks, what would they do? Well, those banks have a much better insight into the needs and wants of their customers. A bank in New York, their customers have different needs than a bank out in the middle of the country. Their customers' needs are going to be completely different, and I agree. Those little banks, those little things that are in the community will better understand what it is that their community might possibly need and what services they need. So they can be more innovative when it comes to services around the usage of money. A bank could distinguish itself through various financial services like a particularly useful mobile banking platform, new mobile payment methods, investment advice, or an excellent trading platform. But one must also acknowledge that the bank's essential role of a loan giver would indeed be at risk, which is why they are studying CBDCs. They're not studying CBDCs to see if they can implement them. They can implement them. They could have implemented them already. The reason banks have not implemented CBDCs yet is because they will lose out on all that money from loans. And that's why they're studying it. What would be the effect of CBDCs on the economy? If a significant number of the bank's clients decide to hold CBDCs instead of having a bank account like today, the bank would have less capital to give out loans, which would, in turn, make loans more expensive and potentially not even viable. And this is where it discusses why that is a problem for the banks. They don't want DeFi. They don't want smart contract to contract. They want to be the middleman. They want to be the middle person. They want to be the go-through because they want to be able to reach out and grab a chunk of your money as well. Banks are a business. They are a for-profit business. Every time you deal with a bank and somebody says, hey, the bank has this great deal, always realize banks are a for-profit business. In some way, shape, or form, they are profiting off what they're doing. It is probably one of the biggest reasons why central banks have not yet jumped on the opportunity to create a digital currency that would have a legal tender status, but are running analysis on how to solve these problems, the problems of them getting cut out of the loan business. There aren't any single answers. There are a lot of different answers, but we don't have any answers on what they're going to do about loans yet with the central bank. As soon as I find out something, I will let you guys know. Why should people prefer CBDCs over bank accounts? The main reason people would prefer... Yes, okay, I am not re-recording this again. This is the 20th time. We are muscling through this. Why should people prefer CBDC over bank accounts? The main reason people would prefer CBDC over a bank account is that CBDC is not at risk when the banks fail. The removal of that risk would be beneficial to individuals and the economy as a whole. Furthermore, the transfer of money across banks and country boundaries becomes much more straightforward and cheaper. Remittance payments are expensive. You want to send money home to your family in another country, those remittance payments are expensive. Cryptocurrencies help solve that. It's more streamlined. It's faster. You don't have to wait forever. Various bank systems would not need to interact with each other to facilitate such payments. You are a big business. You want to send $1 million overseas to your little satellite business in another country. No bank carries $1 million, and you can't today send $1 million, and in an hour, your satellite in another country picks up that $1 million and is off and going. That's just not the way it works. It takes days, weeks sometimes for that money to get through because banks have to talk to each other. They have to compile the money, and then they have to get it there. And it's a long process, and it's not cheap. Everybody involved gets a little bit of cut of the money. Various bank systems would not need to interact with each other to facilitate such payments with CBDCs. All that is required is an update of the record at the central bank. This simplicity makes the process faster and cheaper. That's right. You have a state proof, like with Algorand, and the proof of a state of a blockchain. Same basic thing. The central bank would have a proof of the state of all the accounts within that central bank at a certain time. You send your payments, it updates that proof of state, and there you go. Your partner, your satellite business has their money. Other benefits. Money laundering could be easier to identify. Yes, despite what people say, cryptocurrency is not the money launderer's haven. As we found out, yes, you yourself are anonymous. Your wallet is not. So technically, anonymity, you yourself are anonymous. Your wallet is not. But any Joe Blow down the street who has enough technical analysis and technical expertise can link your wallet, track your wallet on the blockchain, and find out who you are and where you are anyways. So no, money laundering, no, you can't, you're not going to money launder. A lot of these news sources are calling cryptocurrency a criminal coin. No, it's not. Another benefit, there's a better chance for financial inclusion. The unbanked, people who can't afford a bank account, but they have a phone. Well, now they can technically have a bank account. There is potential for innovative payment systems and financial services, and many others. I don't think that the benefits of cryptocurrency are going to end. I think we're going to find benefit after benefit after benefit. As time goes on and it gets used, there are going to be differing minds out there, and someone's going to come up with another idea and say, wait, CBDCs and cryptocurrencies are great for this. Innovation, innovation, innovation. I am so glad I muscled through that one. You have no idea how many times I tried to record that. I appreciate you guys listening all the way to the end. You guys are such amazing people. I love talking to you guys. I love hearing from you guys. I love your comments. And I would love to see you guys on the next one. You guys have a wonderful day. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And I will see you on the next one.